Good evening, and welcome to the temporary campsite of the Orator. As you can see, I do not yet have a fire to stoke, but that's okay. Still, pull up your chair and settle in, because tonight, I do have another tale to tell. But before we begin, if you found yourself enjoying my normal content, first-hand true accounts of the supernatural, the paranormal, things that go bump in the night, then allow the spirits to guide your planchette to both the like and subscribe button as well as the notification bell. That way you get notified every time I upload new content. And right now I'm going to be doing videos every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Second, as I mentioned, all of my stories are traditionally true first-hand accounts of the supernatural and paranormal. So if you or anybody you know has a story that you think would fit well on my channel, just reach out to me on any of my social media and we'll find a time to get together, collect your story, and potentially one day feature it here on The Orator. And lastly, before I begin tonight's tale, I just want to give a quick update. A couple weeks ago, my wife and I moved from a small 2-bedroom apartment into a house with a yard, and we got to have our kids come and enjoy this beautiful new space. And while it's been awesome, it's also been a ton of work. And unfortunately, this kind of got pushed to the wayside as I was updating my office. It was a room previously occupied by a cat, and so there was a lot of different stuff I had to do to get the office in shape. And eventually, I'm going to have some background, forested background. I'll have a set with some trees, some fire, stuff like that. So I'm going to be improving and updating the space as we go. But this is a temporary space, and so I hope you enjoy it and enjoy the new format as we continue on with some more scary stories. And now with all of that out of the way, let's get on to today's tale. Tonight, I am going to be retelling one of my favorite urban legends, a folk story from the classic children's book, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Tonight, I will be retelling Me Tai Doty Walker. So it's the early 90s, and we're kind of in Midwest America. And there is this very small town, and in this town, there's this old manor house. And it's one of these houses that has stood for a really long time. It's almost like a house where the town was sort of built up around it. And it was the prominent town of the home. Like the mayor would live there, or somebody well-to-do over the years would live there. The problem is this house eventually fell into somewhat of disrepair, and then it was never repurchased, and then it just sort of went to seed, basically, over the years. And then even further, as it went further and further into chaos, it sort of gained this reputation, not just with the town, but really with the surrounding areas of being this extremely haunted place. Now, you have to remember, this house had been standing for like 100+ years. And so there really was a lot of death and tragedy that happened in this house. And so while there was a lot of lore about how the house was haunted and all the different things that were happening in there, there was kind of a lot of evidence or history to back it up. And then as we kind of get into more modern days, late 80s, early 90s, and kids starting to dare each other to go into these houses and do these kind of pranks, is when this reputation really started to flourish. I mean, people would go into this house and they would not be able to last the night, or they would report seeing things. Some people got injured, things like that. And so over the years, like I said, late 80s and into the early 90s, this house was not only in disrepair, but it was eventually completely condemned, closed off. Nobody was allowed inside. And really the reputation had gotten so bad that kids didn't even want to break in. That is until this guy, Bob, came into town. Now, Bob, he didn't, move into this town. He was just sort of passing through on a vacation from, point A to point B, and this was sort of in between. And so Bob, he's passing through this town. He stops, he has a meal, and somehow along the way, he gets enough of the lore of this house to be interested in it. Now, Bob, he apparently was just a gambling man, a betting man. He liked to play games and places money in different places, make bets, stuff like that. And so when he hears about this house, he kind of decides to park there, and he puts out like this, sort of like this open call. I'm going to give $100,000 to anybody who can survive the entire night in this haunted house. Now, for Bob, that kind of money is not a big deal, but also he's heard the reputation that literally nobody can last the night in this house, and that it's been that way for years. And, he even takes the time to go and stop and see it. He asks a lot of people in town to realize how serious this situation is before he decides he's going to pony up this money. And obviously, a lot of people came, talked to him about doing it, and Bob, he kind of interviewed each person until he decided on one kid. Now, he probably should have chosen an adult. It's crazy that he chose this kid, but he chose this 14-year-old boy named Tommy, and Tommy decided he was going to go in there, he was going to do it, he was going to stay the night. He just asked Bob if when he did it, he could take his dog with him. And honestly, you'd have to talk to Bob to figure out why he chose Tommy over all of the other people who came. But he did. And, this is back in the 90s. There were no waivers signed or anything crazy like that. It was just a handshake deal. You go in, you survive, and you get $100,000. And Tommy, he was really excited about it. He decides he's going to take his dog. And so it's kind of settled. And so the idea here is that at 9 p.m. at night, Tommy will enter this house, and he's not allowed to come out again until 6 a.m. or sunrise the next morning. And so it's settled. The weekend comes. Everything is set up. Bob is ready with the money, and Tommy goes into this house. He enters. He goes in. He's got his dog with him. The door closes behind him and locks, and then that's it. He's inside. Now, at first, for Tommy, he wants to explore, and really the idea is he is not a believer in the supernatural. He understands the reputation this house has gained, but his first sort of job or his first task that he wants to complete is to explore the house to banish any nervousness he has. Because while he doesn't really think this house is haunted, while he doesn't really believe in that kind of thing, Tommy still kind of wants to alleviate this stress and nervousness he's built up. And so from 9 until about 11, 2 full hours, he explores this house. I mean, he explores the basement, all of the rooms there, the upstairs, the second floor, everything like that. All the attic, everything. He's really looking around all the creaks, the crevices. He wants to make sure that there's no one or nothing in this house that's going to scare him or try to hurt him. And he's got his dog with him the entire time, and they explore this house. And after about 2 hours, Tommy comes to the conclusion this is the easiest money he's ever made. I mean, this is going to change his family's life kind of money. And all he has to do is sit down and wait a night out. And so he sits down on the couch, and as it so happens, this place is, like I said, pretty nice manor house. It has a pretty sizable fireplace. And so while Tommy was kind of going and looking throughout the house, he's also gathering things that are easy to burn. Newspapers, old disrepaired chairs that are broken down and have, you can take their legs and throw them in and stuff like that. And so he starts this nice fire. It's maybe like 11:30, and he's starting to doze off, thinking he's just going to fall asleep, wake up, and $100,000 richer. And just around midnight, as he's finally dozing off, his dog is kind of asleep beside him on the couch, he's suddenly awoken. And he realizes right away what it is. It's this sound. It almost sounds like someone maybe like singing. And the tune, it's like soft and lilting. And it's not coming from within the house. He can tell it's coming from out in the street somewhere. But even though it's really far away, for some reason, it's crystal clear. And he can tell exactly what's being sung, even though, it's through the house and out down the driveway and out in the streets. Should be too far away for him to hear, but he can hear it clear as day. Now, he hears the words, he repeats the words when he retold this story, but he doesn't understand them. The words this thing spoke, this disembodied voice sang, was this: Mitai, Joti, water. And, right away, Tommy has goosebumps crawl up his flesh. His spine starts tingling. He's getting chills. And there's just something about the voice, the sound of it, how it's carrying, the fact that it's at midnight in this small town. And he's already sort of on edge because of this house. That it's just very supernatural, very creepy to him. But it's just a voice, right? And it's off in the distance, not a big deal. And so Tommy, he goes to settle back in, go back to sleep, because this is not really anything that's concerning him, even though it is creepy. When Tommy's dog sits up, you know, he heard this voice, and all of a sudden he opens his mouth as if he's gonna bark, this dog. But instead of barking, as impossible as this sounds, this dog speaks. And it doesn't just speak, it's almost like it answers back to whatever this voice says. So remember the voice, it says,
Me, Tai, Joti, Walker.
And this dog responds,
Lynchy, Kinchy, Golly, Molly, Dingo, Dingo.
And, you know, obviously, Tommy, he's terrified not just of this voice, but now his dog is speaking. Like, he doesn't believe in the supernatural. This house was creepy just of its own right, but he didn't think anything otherworldly was going on until this moment. And now suddenly, he's presented with something he can't even really wrap his head around. Right? Like, his dog literally just stood up and spoke, but not only did it speak, which doesn't make any sense, it was responding to this thing. Like, this thing was calling out, waiting for a response, and somehow this dog gave one. And so Tommy, he's terrified beyond reason at this point. He jumps up and he starts to run for the door. He's not thinking about money anymore. He just wants to get out of there before something worse happens, because this is crazy. So he starts running to the door. He almost gets there when he hears this voice again. But it's not coming from out in the road. It's coming up the driveway toward the door, and he can hear it louder, clearer, more powerful.
Me, Tai, Joti, Walker.
And before he can even do anything, not that he's even thinking about logically what is going to happen next, his dog, who is at his feet right by the door, speaks back through the door.
Lynchy, Kinchy, Golly, Molly, Dingo, Dingo.
And, you know, the boy, Tommy, he's freaking out, and he scoops up the dog. He does not want to try to exit the front door, right? Because whatever this thing is, it's coming up the walkway. And so, you know, even though Tommy, he's explored this entire house, it's not like he's super familiar with all the entrances and exits. And so he starts running around the house to see if there's maybe a second or third place that he can leave. And as he's running around looking, he hears the voice again. And now all of a sudden it's there. It's like on the front doorstep. It looks like it's about to come in.
Me, Tai, Joti, Walker.
And the dog, he's got his hand around the dog's mouth to stop it from speaking. But the dog bites his hand, so he rips it away. And as soon as he does, the dog responds.
Lynchy, Kinchy, Golly, Molly, Dingo, Dingo.
And the boy, he's running around frantically as his voice is getting louder and louder, and he finds himself back in the living room, having not been able to find another exit around the first floor yet. And as he's kind of passing through the living room to look at maybe the second wing of the house, he hears this voice again. But it's not coming from the walkway outside or the road or even the front door. He hears this voice as though, as it's saying its chant, it's coming down the chimney. He literally hears the voice descend the chimney.
Me, Tai, Joti, Walker.
And the dog, right away, not missing a beat,
Lynchy, Kinchy, Golly, Molly, Dingo, Dingo.
and the boy, he fumbles this dog, it falls to the floor, and this head, this severed head, comes flying out of the chimney, smashes onto the ground, rolls out, and it's like it comes to rest looking at this dog. And the dog looks at the head looks back at the dog, and then the dog just keels over dead on the spot. And Tommy, it's like, there's a part of him that's so panicked that he can't speak or move. But then there's a part of him, his fight or flight instinct, right? That says, if you don't leave now, those eyes that just looked at the dog are gonna turn on you. And you saw what happened to that dog. And that's it. It's like it breaks for Tommy. He turns and he just runs. And now he runs out the front door, right? Whatever this thing was, it's come down the chimney. So he runs out the front door, he turns and he goes all the way back home. Now, Tommy's parents, they of course didn't even know about this. They would never let their 14-year-old son sneak out and go into this haunted house, all that kind of stuff. They thought he was going to bed. He sneaks out after they go to bed. He does this whole thing. And so now he's returning totally dirty, disheveled, no dog, and he's telling them everything that happened. And naturally, it's like 2 in the morning at this point. They call the police. The police go over, and then, kind of by morning, everything sort of is sorting itself out. The police are explaining that they showed up to the manor and it still looked locked and put together. They went in and, everything's in disrepair as it always is, but there's no dead dog, there's no severed head, there's no evidence of any of that stuff having happened. And so, they go to talk to Bob to see what is going on here with the situation, and Bob's just nowhere to be found. They can't find him anywhere in the town. They try to, look for him, search for him, and he's just gone. Nobody really knows a ton of information about the guy, except he rolled into town on his way through. He was offering a lot of money. His description, he just seemed like a normal guy, and that was kind of it, unfortunately. Never found the dog, never found the severed head, but now, certainly more than ever, everyone stays out of that haunted manor now that they know that they never want to hear the voice of me, Ty, Doty Walker. And so that's going to do it for today's story. If you found yourself enjoying this story or any of the normal stories on my channel, firsthand, true accounts of the supernatural, paranormal, things that go bump in the night, then allow the spirits to guide your play. Chat to both the like and subscribe button as well as the notification bell. That way you get notified every time I upload new content, which right now is going to be every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Second, as I mentioned, all my stories are firsthand true accounts of the supernatural and paranormal. So if you or anybody you know has a story that you think would fit well on my channel, just reach out to me on any of my social media. We'll find time to get together, collect your story, and potentially one day feature it here on The Orator. And so until next time, where you may pull up your chair and settle in, I may or may not have a fire yet stoked, but I will have another tale to tell.